Hello again. All right, so I am going to do the top of the pie. So this one, I want my lattice strips to be longer. So I don't necessarily need to be this in that perfect circle because I'm going to be cutting these. And so it doesn't matter. And I know I want a few long strips. So, and I have that other little bit that was from that other part. If I need it, I'll get that out and add to that later. So this is going to be more of an oblong or an oval shape on there. And I'm just making sure because I don't want these to fall onto pieces. Excuse me. So I'm going to get a little bit more. You don't want to do too much flour as to make this like stiffer, and it'll crack and it'll have too much of a floury taste to it. But you do want to go through. So I'm going to kind of go to the side here. And like I said, if you go from the middle and you go out, so this one you just want to have, and it's kind of separated there, so I just kind of squished together. Like I said, I know I want to have some long pieces, and I may end up rolling out more. So I just want to make sure this is even. And that happens. You can put a little bit of flour on your rolling pin. Okay, that's fairly even. Again, you know, are you going to make this, you know, absolutely perfect all the way through? No. So I'm going to show you real close. That's about how thin I make it. So you don't want it to be too thin because it's going to fall apart. But you don't want it to be too thick because then it's too chewy and it might not make. So you can use a pizza slicer. I got this because it makes the little fluted edge. You can put your, like say this is the bigger piece, you can put your rolling pin and just kind of set it there and go across with your knife. Of course, it's not gonna do it as well because that's a little one, but you can put a piece of paper down and go through that with it. It's nice because with that dragging, what can happen with that is that it can kind of drag through it. So these are nice. Again, if you don't have, you can always use the pizza slicer. So another thing that, because these are sometimes can be kind of wonky as well. So if you can kind of put a piece of paper down, it can kind of give you a guide if you want to have it be precise and you can measure. I just rather eye it. So I kind of go through and just try to make sure that I'm going about the same distance so I don't have them be all wonky shaped. But you know what? That's part of being a homemade pie, is having, you know, it's obvious that they're not all. And I will pick up the computer here so you can see this a little bit closer. And I find it's easier if I go towards me than away as far as being able to keep these fairly consistent. All right, some of those small ones. You will need some shorter pieces for the ends, which you'll see. So I'm going to grab the computer and just show you a little bit closer up so you can see how I got that done. All right. Okay. So put that back. And so then I bring my pie over. So there have been many times that I have, and if I was not filming, I would be using my space over there to be putting this on. So I'm gonna probably end up moving some of this around a little bit more as we're doing that. I talked about the butter that I didn't have that last time. So you just take 2 tablespoons of butter and just cube it up and just dot it all along this before you put your pie crust over the top. There have been many times that I've forgotten this, even after I get the crust on the top. So then you just kind of go through and finagle and lift and tuck and put it under. Just have them evenly spaced out. Not really a major deal. All right, so to do a lattice, YouTube's great for that too. Oh, this can be on YouTube, but they actually probably have more professional types of videos that will show this better. So let's see here. I'm going to try to turn the thing here so we can see this a little bit better and move some of my stuff out of the way. All right, so I'm going to move that mouse so it doesn't stop on me. All right, so I'm going to take one of my long pieces just out of the center here, just lift it up, and you can do these. I kind of like to do it up and see that's what happens, so that's okay. And I'm going to save that for another piece, and one of my butters fell off. So as I was starting to say, you can do them straight, cross back and forth, your lattice, or you can do it at a slight angle. I like it at the slight angle better. So let me go ahead and do this again with this one. So there's my first one at that angle. So, and I'm going to slide it just ever so slightly over. So I only have a little bit that's hanging over in this end. I've got a little bit more, so I can just rip that off. So your first one that you're going to do, you're going to put across the whole way. And then you want probably your second longest piece. And cross that over and hang that end down. And I'm just going to pull that off because I might use some of these ends a little bit later. So what happens if they fall apart in the middle of it? That's okay. You can squish these back together like you were filling out on the other, like the edges. So there, I can kind of just go like this, squish it together, flip it over and kind of squish that side down, and there I have it. So anyway, how you do the lattice. So that first strip that went across, and then I put the other one over the top, and then I fold that one back, and then I grab another longish one. This one's really wide. And I lay that down next to that strip and then break off down here on the end. All right, and I put this back over, and then I lift up that piece. I can lift up this piece actually right here. It doesn't matter, you're just kind of going across back and forth. The oven is already warmed now. All right, preheated. All right, so then I bring that back. So now I need to get one that's going to go over the top, but under these two pieces. So then I fold these two over and get another lattice strip and put that down and fold those over. So you don't want to have them too thin because they can fall apart at this point. And so that's part of the reason with making them a little bit thicker. And I'm just getting, I've got little pieces, I think, of apple, the seeds on there. All right, so then I fold that over and that over on that side. So this is getting towards the end. It's a little bit smaller. I don't need to have as long of a piece. And fold those over. And then I'll take this side. So here, this is even shorter. So that's why it's kind of nice when I have some of these other pieces, like I said, that aren't going to be. And then you drop some. And that's okay. So that made that one just a little bit smaller, but I've got this longer one that I pieced together that's right there. So I'm just going to put that one right on and put that over. And fold that, fold that. It's just kind of going back and forth. So you always will, if you can kind of, if you've been able to see how I'm doing that. And I'm just going to put that a little bit closer there. All right. So you just kind of go back there and there. And let's see here. Just kind of back and forth. Oh, see? Homemade pies. Okay, back up, hold that up. And there we go. And not too much, and that one's kind of falling apart, so I'm going to gingerly fold that up. And know that I'm going to go with this one that was a little bit smaller. I think I pieced that one together too. All right. And then I have over here, I think that's going to be about it. I'll just do this nice big thick wide one. So yeah, these were pretty wide variety of sizes on there, and that's okay. I'm going to do one more down here. Just because I've got enough, and that way those ends are all on there. All right, there we go. So now we've got all these little things that are pieces, parts of the lattice that's hanging down. So I'm going to slide all of that over. And how do we fix this? So again, this is where I can kind of, you can go through and make, so there's going to be a lot of pie dough right here on these ends. So I'm going to actually cut those, break those lattice pieces off a little bit shorter. Because I'm going to take the edge that I had hanging over. I'm just going to fold that up on there. So if I see a lot of it that's going to be, it's going to be pretty thick, I might break off some of that, more of that lattice. And if there's an area that's thin, I can just pick up a piece and put it on there. So I'm just kind of folding this up. So let me break off some of these. So this looks really rough, and that's okay. So I'm going to do, and this is another thing, you can go to YouTube and find, or different cooking sites, and find different ways to make a decorative edge. So I'm just kind of smoothing this up all the way around. And do you have to do a decorative edge? No. You can just leave it very rough like this, and that's just fine. I've got a little part here that's thin, so I'm just going to grab one of these lattice pieces and just kind of put that on there. So a variety of things that you can do. There's the pinch method, where you can go through and pinch, and I'm actually going to bring my computer down here so you can see this a little bit better. There we go. All right, so you can take and you can pinch the end and then go right in where you were at. So I had my first piece there, and then I put my thumb there, and then I'm going to go where that was at. You can pinch, and so that kind of gives like a spiral type going all the way around. Or you can go like this with the finger. Take one finger here and put the other two there and just kind of pinch, and then you put that back in that area, and that gives it kind of a fluted look to it. Up to you. Or you can simply get a fork and go around the edges like that. So I think I'm just going to do that this time, just because I haven't done that in a while. All right. So I'm just kind of pushing my hand around the side just to make sure that I'm not hanging down too far on the edge. So right over where I did that little pinch. So like I said, it's just got different looks to it, so I'll just kind of flatten those down because it'll look better. I don't think I've done that type of an edge for a while. That's all right. Okay, so on the recipe, it does say, and I'm not going to demo that part of it because it's pretty darn easy. You can go through, you can brush this with an egg wash and sprinkle with sugar. And so I just take an egg. Sorry, you got a close-up of my hand there. Just beat up an egg and brush it over the top, and then just sprinkle some sugar. It helps kind of give that kind of a crust. It's kind of like a harder glaze over the top of it, and you put it in the lowest rack on your oven, preheat that to 450, put it on a tray and put it in there just in case anything spills, but more importantly, it's easier to take it out afterwards. And bake it at 450 for 10 minutes, and then you're going to reduce your temperature to 370, and you bake it to 30 to 35 minutes longer. Now, I probably usually end up having to bake it more closer to that 35 to 40 because I've got such a large pie, so it stands up pretty high up over the edge. And that's okay that it does that. Like I said, it kind of shrinks down a little bit, so I just kind of make sure that it's, you know, patted down. I probably should have pushed my apples down a little bit further before I started. So you're just watching that, and when you're baking, when it's done, just take the paring knife and do this now so you know what it feels like. You know, you've got, you know, you're slicing through apple pieces. So you want to go through and check it when it's done. If your pie crust at the edges seems to be getting like too dark, too done, you can always put foil around the edges of it while it's still baking and stuff. So, but I'm going to go ahead and stop now. And then, like I said, I'm going to do that wash and sprinkle some sugar on. And I'm going to put it in the oven, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done.